Alright guys, it's time for us to get started on our rings. So we got some piston rings here from Hastings. Yeah, they're just standard size rings. You know, this is just a pretty basic refresh here, so we're not going crazy. They're the original ring leader, they say, so you know, made in the USA. I'm sure they're great quality. I don't really know enough about piston ring brands to tell you where they stand on the totem pole, but they were a fair price in my opinion, and we're running them. So that being said, first thing I got to do is go ahead and find our top ring, which is ring number 1, and we are going to start setting our gaps, making sure that these are all gapped correctly, and we're gonna just be doing one piston at a time. Okay, just gave the good old instructions a look over, and they didn't come with the gap, so I went ahead and I used the good old interwebs to figure out what my piston ring gap is. And it looks like if we're going on, let's see, well, yeah, if we're going on the tighter side of the gap, we're starting out at a 0.01 of an inch, or we're going 25 millimeters, 0.25 millimeters. So I got the filler gauge set on there. We're just gonna see, if this clears, and if not, then we're gonna have to file down some piston rings. All right, it looks like, yep, we have clearance here. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go on the higher end. Alright guys, I just went ahead and double checked our max gap clearance, and it is 0.02 of an inch, or 0.5 millimeters. So let's see if this will fit through the gap. And it doesn't look like it will. So that is good news. That means our bore is still within factory recommendations. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out exactly what the measurement of this gap is. Looks like right out of the box that our gap is a 0.017, so 0.017, and that is 43 millimeter, which is in our specified range. So we're not going to need to do any filing on this piston ring. We're just going to pull it back out, and we're going to go ahead and put ring number 1 and get it installed. Okay, cylinder number 1 is done. Torque spec on these nuts is 45 foot-pounds. So we're gonna flip this over and continue on. We got 7 more to go. Okay guys, when you're putting your pistons in a V8, you do 2 at a time. The goal is you don't want to rotate your bottom end too many times, because you want to keep that assembly lube where it needs to be. So number 1, we got that in, and if you take a look at the crankshaft, you're looking at what bearing journal is lined center. So we can obviously see this one right here is our go-to because it's centered out. So it's on the opposite side. It's a V8, that's the way they work. It looks like if that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're doing cylinder number 6, so we're doing 1 and 6. So keep that in mind. When you're doing your V8 pistons, you're doing 2 at a time. They're usually going to be across from each other, diagonal, whatever. You get the gist. Okay guys, we got our number 1 piston installed and our number 6 piston installed. So now we got them torqued to spec. Everything's should be good. Go ahead and just give it a quick little rotation and make sure it doesn't hurt. Oh yeah, that's nice and smooth. You know what they say is you don't want to feel it bound up. You don't want it to feel tight. You want it to move nice and easy. And we're moving pretty easy here. You can hear those new piston rings. Scraped the cylinder just a slightest amount, which is good. Means they're making good contact. Alright. Now the trick is that we rotated it. Let's see. Looks like we got it perfectly lined up for number 2. And if number 2's good, then that means... Oh wait, that's not number 2. Excuse me. This is number 3. So number 3, and it looks like number 2. Those are the ones we're doing next. Yep. 3 and 2.
Johnny Gorman is here. Johnny Gorman here. Johnny Gorman's here. Oh, it's gone. How are you? Hey, can you tell her in Spanish, Leah?
Alright guys, we are down to our final piston. Just so happens to be piston number 4. That doesn't really matter, but I figure since it's the last piston, why don't I get the camera out and we lay on some piston rings together. So, all the rings are gapped and we're on our last set, so I just have them resting on top of this package here, and these ones are in their packages, but regardless, this applies to all cylinders. So step 1, which is what you saw, you get your stuff gapped. We're all gapped here. So step 2, apply the rings to your piston. I like to just go ahead and make sure I give it a quick wipe down, get any dirt, debris, smudges, whatever. I'm just cleaning it up real quick. I always wipe the piston down no matter what. And not really necessary, but I marked all the other ones just so, you know, they don't get mixed up or out of place when they're not in the bags. So just to stay get that out of my mouth, just to stay true to it, we're just gonna go ahead and mark this one paint pen number 4. Not necessary at this point because it's the last cylinder, but we're doing this together, so that's how I keep track. I put this on there. I just don't want to get them mixed up or forget, hey, which cylinder does that go in? And as soon as they come out of the bags, I really have no way of telling. So this allows me to make sure I keep track. Alright, I just go in and I wipe everything down. See, there's still a little bit of oil, old oil, and some smuckle, some carb, a little carbon, you know, a little bit of schmutz, you know. We're just gonna go ahead and give it one last wipe down. I mean, you could go crazy with cleaning, but I plan on getting this truck back to work in no time, so this thing doesn't really need to be perfect. We just need to make sure that everything is functional and clean enough. So, wipe the piston down, step 1 for installing the ring. Step 2, we're gonna grab our, I call these ones the squigglies. You got your squiggly oil ring right here. I'll just give it a glance over, make sure there's no debris on it or nothing. These ones, you just slap right on here on the bottom. Just like that, nothing to it. Then you gotta take, which I'm gonna get this out of the way now, since that's the final ring. Now you got your retainer rings for your squiggly ring. We're gonna get rid of this bag. So there's in this case for the Hastings piston rings, there was 2 bags of third. You know, you get this. There's always going to be retainer rings and a squiggly ring. They just package everything. Will be every brand packages things a little bit differently. Either way, we had 2 ring 3 packages, but regardless, these work together. And I take my rag, give it a quick wipe down, because they'll have. Look at all that brown right there. That's all just oil, and it's a protective film that they put on here because you don't want these things to rust in storage. So you're just gonna go ahead and give it a quick wipe down. Just gotta wipe down. Okay, we know our split is, set this down here. We know our split should be right around this middle part. See how it opens up there? All right, that's our split. Just take your piston ring. These ones don't have an engravement. There's no top bottom on these ones per se. So just grab your thing. We're gonna go ahead, and if the split is along this line with our retainer pin, then I'm just gonna go ahead and do a 45-degree angle, just like this. So splits here, we're putting this here. Now what you do is you're just gonna go ahead and you're gonna take this part right here, pick your, either you're gonna put it in, one goes on the top of here, or you know, they go in between, it's sandwiches, so you can either start with the top spot or the bottom spot, it doesn't really matter. I'm just gonna walk it on the top first to get the top started. You get it started right here. Whoops, try not to mess this up. Oh, whoop. Okay, make sure I'm in the right spot. There we go. You're gonna start it just like that, get it in the groove, and then what you're doing is you're just walking it around the cylinder, and then it kind of will just pop into place. These ones are very easy to get on there. They're thin, they move around easy, they're not hard to work with. So now we have this one installed. Our split is here, right? So now our original split is either this side or this side, that doesn't really matter, but now we have a split here. We're just gonna flip it a 180, and we're gonna put our other ring split right here. So same thing, you're gonna grab your ring, wipe it down real quick, get any oil, any debris off of here. Alright, we wipe our ring. I like to go over it one time with my fingers too, just to make sure I don't feel anything catching, I don't feel any lint, any debris. Okay, we're good. So now we're just going to do the same thing on the bottom down here. We're just going to get it started like that, kind of hold it in with my thumb, stretch the ring around. A little weird because I'm kind of focusing on filming and explaining and doing it, so excuse me for being a little sloppy there. Okay, now you want to make sure this thing spins freely. Yes, it turns, everything's moving, good. Alright, so oil rings are done. Now we have our ring number 2 already gapped, ready to go. Same thing, one last wipe down with the rag, because why not, it doesn't hurt. Give it a quick run through with the fingers, make sure there's no sharp edges, no bezeling, nothing's gonna catch. Alright, and make sure there's no lint. See? Good, right? Clean, perfect. Top, engraved. This has to be the top face, so piston sits like this, it has to be on top. This is our secondary ring, so what I do with these is I just go ahead and same thing with those thinner rings, but they're a little bit more tricky to walk in. Usually I'll have it sitting on my lap, or some people will have a piston holder. That might help if I had a piston holder or something, but usually I just pinch them in between my legs. But I'm gonna just try and carefully walk this on, keeping it up here. We don't want to scratch on our sides, and if you do, no big deal. You can just get a little fine grit sandpaper and gently polish any burrs or scratches out. Not the end of the world if you do, but the goal is you don't want these little sharp edges to scratch on your piston. Now that we got that in there, we're just gonna leave it pointing forward. And then we have our final ring, the top compression ring. These are both compression rings or whatever, I don't know. Some people call the middle one a little different, or the top one firing and compression, or yeah. They're basically your compression rings. We don't need to get too technical. Terminology isn't that important as long as you just are doing things halfway by the textbook, I would say. I mean, shoot, you don't even have to be as thorough as I'm being, but you do got to be thorough. And when it comes to piston rings, you want to make sure you put them in the right orientation. All right, we got our top, so it's right here, right? The split. So what we do, we're just gonna flip it directly over 180 degrees, and we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna just do the same thing as we've done with all our other rings. Carefully walk them in. There we go. Make sure everything is spinning good. Now here's the deal. I mean, there's probably a million different people's opinions on this as far as how much you should turn them away from each other or whatever. I always just say as long as they're pretty much around 180 degrees away from each other, the gaps I mean, then you're fine. You don't really need to worry about it that much. Just don't overlap them. If your rings are overlapping like that, no bueno. So just go ahead and spin that thing around, back in business. And you're gonna want to double check that before you install it with your ring compressor. You're gonna want to double check, make sure these are good. Okay, now that our rings are on, time to put in some fresh bearings. Rods have already been actually cleaned for the most part, but I did leave these bearings in here just to protect the old bearings. I left these old bearings in here just to protect the underside of the rod. As you can see here, we got some copper showing. This one doesn't have any terrible grooves. We'll go over some of the other bearings. I don't catch anything with a nail really. So the bearings, needless to say, in this truck, they did their job. No complaints there. They kept that thing running up until I parked it. And if you guys got a good look at that camshaft, hopefully you did. I don't know how well the quality came out yet because I haven't edited the video, but that camshaft was chewed up. So you know what, honestly, if we just put this thing back together even half decent, there's no way it would run worse than it was. But we're doing a thorough job here. Okay. Maybe I'm talking too much. Now I got a little bit of some 1200 like emery cloth sandpaper. I'm gonna take this right here and I'm just gonna go ahead and give this a quick polish before I insert the new bearing. Give it the 2-finger method here. Yeah, gentlemen, you know what I mean. A little 2-finger swoop around. Yep. Clean it up. Nice thing about using a fine grit emery cloth is you're not going to strip any material away by accident. So now we got a nice shine, nice polish. I'm gonna go ahead and take my glass cleaner here. Find a nice, well, this rag is actually, I should probably replace it with another one. It's getting a little dirty, but I'm running out of clean rags. So, gonna find, all right, this isn't bad, the cleanest spot I can on the rag. Just do a quick little spray there, dap it up, and then I'm gonna just make sure to wipe any debris and contaminants off of here. Okay, take another edge, clean edge, dry it. Yep, dry. Okay, we're clean now, we're dry. I gotta take my bearings. Got one right here, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just gonna give this a quick wipe down. They come with a little bit of an oil on them. You want to install them dry to begin. You don't want oil in between the bottom side and this side of the rod. So we just got to clean it real quick. Quick little wipe down. Get another clean edge. Make sure for sure we don't got any debris on there. Double check for any imperfections. This looks good. Not bad. A little bit of a mark here. You'll see a little mark sometimes on your bearings, but 90% of the times it's not enough to do anything, so no reason to worry about it. And if you do have one for some reason that comes with some markings on it, just return them. I'm sure the company will have no problem sending you another box, or if you're in a pinch and you got to get something done quick, just do the same method. Take a little fine grit emery cloth and just kind of polish it up, you know. It won't hurt nothing. But in our case, our bearings are pristine, so we don't have to worry about that. We're going to get it pressed in. Pressing in the bearing is simple, at least for the 5.2 Magnum. There's nothing to it, and for every rod that I've ever seen. Although the oiling hole scenario is a little different on this one. You got like a little V cut out. You got to make sure to line that up with where the port's going to be, which is actually on this part of the rod, but you gotta line that up there. And then of course there's no way to really get it wrong because you got your little groove here, your little retaining groove that holds the bearing. So got that one on. We're gonna pop this one off real quick, and then there we go, pop that one off real quick. Gonna do the same thing, quick wipe down. See how it's a little cloudy. Take it with the emery cloth real quick. Yep. Well, pretty good enough to me. Got it nice and shiny, polished. Quick little spritz of the cleaner. Wipe it down. Find a clean edge, dry it. Make sure there's no lint, no debris on here. Looks good. Okay, last bearing. Thank goodness. Doing 8 of these seems like it would be quick, and then you start to do it and it actually is pretty time consuming. I mean, unless you're just like rushing it or a really quick worker, which I like to take my time. So to me this seems like it's taken quite a long time. It's been a few hours. So alright, wiping the bearing down. Got the bearing wiped down clean, double checking it, imperfections, nothing major, little scuff here but doesn't catch a nail, no big deal. Alrighty, putting it in. Got our little retainer groove, the triangle oil feed. Make sure it's in all the way. Alright, now let me go ahead and resituate, and we're gonna go stick the sucker in the block. Alright guys, now that we got the piston rings on our piston, we got to take a rag and we need to wipe out the cylinder. Make sure that we get this thing nice and clean. See? There's, I don't know if you can see it that well, but there's debris on that rag. So flip it over to a clean side. We're just going to wipe it down until it's clean. We don't want any debris, and when you hone these cylinders, there's going to be debris embedded in these etchings, these hone marks or whatever, cross hatching. You're going to want to just make sure that you go ahead and get the cylinder nice and clean. Which, it's clean now. Oh no, my gimbal died. That's figures. Alright, I guess we're just going to do this by hand. No big deal. All right. So just got to wipe down. Next up, we got to take our cylinder, or yeah, our piston here, I should say, and we're gonna. Actually, I'm wrong. We're not gonna insert it yet because I'm about to skip this very important step. Hold on a darn second. My gimbal died and now I lost my train of thought. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and put a glove on real quick. Okay, I got my glove on and I'm gonna grab my assembly lube. I'm gonna apply some assembly lube to my glove here. Good amount, and I'm gonna rub it all around the cylinder wall. So yeah, taking the assembly lube and rubbing it all around the cylinder wall, working it, making sure it gets in those grooves. We want this nice and lubed up. And then I just dispose of my glove because, yeah, it is some slimy stuff, assembly grease. All right, now we're gonna have to lube up our piston here. And what I do is I just go ahead and I take the assembly lube and I apply it to our oil ring. So give me 1 second here and I will show you. So I just work it just like that, all in that oil ring. Make sure I cover it nice and even. Oops. Yep, and just like that. Alright, now we got a compressor rings, which this is already pre-lubed as well from all the previous lube, but usually you'll want to lube your ring compressor up if it's your first piston. But we're going to go ahead and just slap that on there for a second. I think I got the Allen wrench in my pocket. Yep. Okay, we're going to slap that on. We're just going to go ahead and cinch it down. Trying to keep it as, let it tighten up as even as possible. Make sure your rings are still good. Alright. There we go. Got it compressed. Now we're just going to go ahead and we're going to make sure we got it facing the right direction. So our orientation, all these notches mean it points that direction. So flip it. Oh shoot! Need to make sure to put that on too. This is why YouTubing is a little difficult sometimes. But anyways, definitely make sure you freaking lube up the rod bearing. Don't be like me and half-ass almost forget to do that because you're filming. I went a little excessive there. You don't need to put that much on. Alright, got our lube on there. Make sure it's facing the right direction. Alright, make sure that it's in the right orientation, and what I do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to tap the piston compressor ring thing around the edges just to make sure that it's pretty uniform. And once you do that, make sure you got everything lined up as closely as you can. They sell special hammers for installing pistons, but really you can just use any hammer, wooden, rubber handle, because that's what you use, and you're just going to gently tap it in. Get it down about halfway. I tap my presser around again, just make sure it's all still even. You can even double check, make sure it's still tight enough, but I think this one is tight enough, so we're just gonna full send it. And catch it with the hammer. Bam! We just installed a piston partially. Okay, so now that it's in its position, we have to carefully guide our rod, because we do not want to hammer this down and scratch up our crankshaft. Plus, it wouldn't even connect to the crankshaft right now. So this, unfortunately, since my gimbal just died, I'm gonna have to put the camera down. But what I do is I just sit right here where I'm at with the camera, eye level, and I have a finger guiding it, and I gently hammer it down until it's in its spot. You don't want your threads to scratch up your crank. That wouldn't be good, so you got to be careful. They do sell some like little protective covers you can put on there. You could probably just wrap a little electric tape around it or whatever, but for me, I'm not that worried about it. I just pay close attention and I just guide them with my hands. So I'm gonna do that real quick off camera. Alright, now I am fully seated on the crank. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rotate this engine over. See how yeah. Alright. It wasn't that bad to do one-handed, surprisingly. Now we can get a good look. Make sure we're seated on there, which we are. And I gotta go get the other half of the cap, or the rod, I should say. I gotta go get the rod cap, I should say. Alright, put some assembly lube on our bearing here, and now we're about to install the cap. For the 5.2 Magnum, you're gonna have your little groove insert right here. And on this one, for example, here's our oiling. The little cutout, little triangle cutout is for the oiling. As you can see, there's a little notch here as well. That's for the oiling of the bearing. On here, I'm talking about this tang, this little cutout. These, usually in most cases, but not every case, so look up for your specific engine, but they'll usually just be on the same side as each other. So, at least on LS and, you know, Chevy and Magnum, I've never worked on a Ford. No hate on you Ford guys. I've just never worked on a Ford. But the Chevys and the Dodges, that's how their bearing orientation typically will be. So just a little way to remember, maybe if you accidentally do forget which orientation your rod caps go on, just think, oh yeah, tang to tang. That's how it goes. Alright, hand tight these little nuts on here, which, by the way, you can reuse your nuts. There's some speculation out there on the internet when you look it up about replacing them, but they're kind of hard to find, and if yours are in good shape, just reuse them. It ain't gonna hurt. Once they are snug, I go ahead and I started at a 30 foot-pound, and I just work them evenly. So I do about 15 foot-pounds top, 15 foot-pounds bottom, and then 30, and then 30. So that's what I do. Okay, once you're done with getting it up to 30, if you want to follow my method, or if you're just going straight shooting all the way up to 45 foot-pounds is the final torque spec for this. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get these both up to 45. Working them evenly. Like I said, I like to maybe go to about 40 on this one, and then go to 40 on that, and then do the last 5 pounds on each side. I just work them as evenly as I can for rod caps. At least that's just what I do personally. Alright, if everything is done right and well, this thing should spin without feeling too tight. So let's go ahead and rotate our rotating assembly, and let's see how it feels. It feels pretty good. Not bad at all. Alright, I don't want to do too much. Alright, I'm just going to rotate it the rest of the way to top dead center and then call it good, because you don't want to use up all your assembly lube prematurely, so that's good. think we're at top D. Yep, look at that little dot right there. We need to mark that with a little paint pen, make it easier to see. But alright, we're at top D. So, mission complete. Now I need to order a brand new camshaft and lifters, and we need to redo those heads. So, mission complete. We have the bottom end of our rotating assembly complete. So now I have the mission of buying a new camshaft and lifters, which will be a little expensive, but not the end of the world. And in the next video, hopefully we'll have that available to install. But more importantly, in the meanwhile, we got to make sure those cylinder heads are in good enough condition to reuse, which off first glance, I don't see why they wouldn't be. And I really hope they are, because cylinder heads can get pricey, but I'm sure they are. They look pretty good to me. But we're going to still double check, make sure all those valves aren't bent. We're going to do new valve stem seals, and we're going to clean all that carbon and crap off of them. So if that sounds like something you're interested in seeing, well, stay tuned for next video. And I hope that my 5.2 liter Magnum journey is informative and maybe can help you if you are thinking about doing the same thing and you've never done it, or you need a recap or whatever. You know, we're all here doing this stuff together. We all live in one world together, you know. We all get one life. So I hope you make the most of yours. I'm going to try and make the most of mine, which is by being a brainiac, I feel sometimes, and just making sure that I can fix my own shit, because I can't afford to be paying everybody to fix my shit for me. I'm not that privileged. And I'm a working man. I'm American. I need a dang truck. I need a truck. You gotta have a truck. If you're a car guy, you need a truck. I feel like that's just kind of mandatory. If you're a car guy, you're a truck guy. So anyways, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more. Have a good night.